Okay, today's video is about a topic that many viewers will likely be fully aware of already. I would be naive to ever think that there is not a tremendous amount of audience overlap between myself and a few other very specific creators. Not only that, but sometimes based on what is relevant in the current gaming news landscape, we will sometimes cover the same topics. Because of this, sometimes video subjects overlap and get repeated. Since I didn't get to this topic yesterday when it first became public, I will likely be repeating a lot of what others have said. However, in this instance, I am perfectly happy to do so because the subject is something I view to be extremely important in today's gaming industry. To begin, we need to establish an understanding of what G2A is. G2A is a Polish-owned, Hong Kong-based game key resale website. Now, in actuality, the site covers a lot more than just video game product keys, such as electronics, peripherals, and gift cards. But for the purpose of today's video, the most relevant section is digital game keys. G2A is not alone in this practice. You have sites like Chrono, or Kingwin, or Humble, which all offer discounts, deals, and promotions, and also heavily feature digital product codes. The difference, however, is that G2A has, as far as I've been able to find, by far the lowest prices. In some circumstances, prices on G2A are even below the threshold of the largest Steam sales to ever occur for that game, which begs the question, how are they operating this game key service so as to stay in business? Now, it could be that they are simply providing out-of-pocket discounts to their customers from the goodness of their hearts, but I think we can all agree that's laughably unlikely. But when their prices are lower than any reflected competitor, it really does create a vacuous question that needs an answer. Another possibility on a surface level is that G2A has special deals with certain developers. Given the number of discounted keys they offer, those relationships would need to be vast and substantial to secure the necessary price point and quantity. And considering some of their competitors in the space, it might be plausible since sites like Humble or Chrono certainly do work to open relationships with developers to their mutual benefit. But with G2A, we know for a fact this is not the case. G2A has had a reputation problem for quite a while now. The premise of their storefront is third-party, peer-to-peer resale, which means that gamers are often selling unwanted product keys they just happen to own. This can be a result of a promotional bundle, buy one get one free, sell the free one on G2A equals profit, but a side effect of this business model is the possibility that players might sell illegally obtained keys in mass quantities for a substantial profit, which is exactly what has happened. Something else I forgot to talk about that I realize is extremely relevant post-script is that G2A also offers point and currency packs for a lot of different games. But if you directly compare the actual price for these currency packs to the legitimate site where they come from or the actual price offered by the game publisher or game developer, there is a huge discrepancy. Someone is losing money on these transactions and G2A is simply making sure that it's not them. There are numerous different examples of this, but for today I will reference TinyBuild, an indie developer who launched their own independent storefront but ran headfirst into the consequences of G2A's business model. TinyBuild started to get hit by mass quantities of chargebacks. This is the occurrence when a credit card has been stolen and fraud committed where the bank or credit card company forcibly reverse the charges to protect their client. In the case of TinyBuild, they were hit with so many chargebacks that it severely damaged their ability to sustain themselves and operate their entire business. And when tracing back the origin of these chargebacks, though it is somewhat difficult to pinpoint specifics, it became clear that G2A had been selling thousands of keys for TinyBuild games at half their intended retail cost, and a large number of them were fraudulently acquired, leading to a forced chargeback up to 30, even 60 days later. There is an important progression to highlight here. When you buy a game from a standard storefront like Steam, not all of that money goes to the developers. Firstly, Steam takes a percentage likely at or close to 30%, especially from indie titles. Second, if there is a publisher involved between Steam and the physical developers themselves, there is that relationship to consider, but ultimately, after all the middlemen have gotten their share, the developers harvest a profit. Now, this model mostly applies to small indie companies, seeing as large AAA publishers and developers have a different relationship wherein the developers are an entirely integrated group that do not usually rely on profit from game sales. At least not directly, they don't. However, indie game developers do. They oftentimes need the money that ends up in their account to sustain their game, salary, and effectively their lives. When buying a standard indie game, not all the money reaches the developers, but some does. When buying a game from G2A, however, this relationship changes. Since G2A is a peer-to-peer transaction platform, the money is exchanged between players, while G2A harvests a significant cut, in excess of 30% at times considering all of the transaction fees. Now, one could assume that those keys came from somewhere, so the developer must have gotten some sort of kickback for this transaction to even be possible at some point, but that is where the chargebacks come into play. If a player or group, for that matter, are able to use a stolen credit card and then purchase game keys with it, they have a short window to sell those keys, extract the funds, and profit before the bank or credit card companies start to fight back. As they initially purchase the keys through whatever legitimate method they can find, the developers receive their percentage cut, as they would normally. However, after multiple weeks, when the chargeback finally hits, the money is then removed from the developer while the criminal and G2A profit from the overall transaction. Not only is the indie developer now missing the funds they were awarded from the purchase of their product initially, they are also responsible for the chargeback fees, which can, in mass quantities, equal thousands of dollars of expenses, on top of not being paid while their game is sold for cheap prices to any gamer who wants it. G2A is effectively costing developers money while depriving them of their deserved compensation. This is not a new phenomenon. The problematic relationship that G2A has with outright fraud, profiting at the direct cost of developer income, has been widely discussed for many months. G2A has taken some minor steps towards self-regulation of the issue, and seems convinced that it has solved the problem, but signs point to the detrimental effects that their resale services have on indie developers still being in full effect. But more recently, a new occurrence re-sparked that debate with a new ferocity. On Twitter, Thomas Faust, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I might not be, I apologize, from Some Indie Games, which appears to be a gaming media site, posted these snapshots. My name is Adrian, and I represent a global digital marketplace called G2A.com. Our company is one of the biggest and most popular trading platforms in the world. It is a place where buyers and sellers of games and other digital and physical goods meet and make transactions. I'm contacting you because I think your website matches our interests perfectly, and we would like to find out more about publishing and advertising opportunities that you can offer. At the moment, we are trying to improve our brand awareness and public image, especially among the indie and smaller game developers. Unfortunately, the majority of public does not understand either our business model or how we try to make sure our customers can safely purchase digital products. We want to make sure people understand we do everything we can to support gaming community and that we introduce every possible method to assure every side is satisfied. We have written an unbiased article about how selling stolen keys on gaming marketplaces is pretty much impossible, and we want to publish it on your website without being marked as sponsored or marked as associated with G2A. It is a transparent and just review of the problem of the stolen key reselling. Below I attach an excerpt of the article. If you want the full article, just let me know. If you are interested in publishing the article, please provide me with the pricing and details about your options for such content publication. Beneath this post, which rapidly gained a significant amount of traction, the official G2A account responded validating that it was in fact real, and saying the following: "These emails were sent by our employee without authorization, for which we apologize to Some Indie Games and the 9 other media outlets he sent this proposal to. He will face strict consequences, as this is absolutely unacceptable." Here is where things take a turn toward the land of being outright illegal. The FTC requires all sponsored and paid promotional content to be disclosed. It's the reason YouTube offers a setting that shows a pop-up message at the beginning of videos, you might have seen it, saying this video contains paid promotion. The reason behind this is because when a public figure, group, publication, whatever it may be, has been specifically paid to say something, viewers need to be made aware of that. It's a bit murky as to the general scientific psychological effects of disclosing versus not disclosing paid promotion. I wasn't able to find any real meaningful data on that, but it didn't really seem relevant for the video, so moving on. But there is a definite atmosphere of trust that can be heavily relied upon if a creator or outlet does not disclose that they are being paid, and their praise is actually scripted rather than fully felt. If a creator pretends to love a certain product and use it all the time, viewers that enjoy the creator's work might be inclined to purchase that product since it appears to be genuine. But if the creator says, "I was paid to say this, it's so amazing, yay," that diminishes the perceived legitimacy of the product's appeal. Likewise, with information, if you promote a story as if you fully believe it, it can be received better and is fundamentally more trusted than if you say, "I got paid to tell you this, but it's still true and I still believe it." The seed of doubt from paid sponsorships will always exist, even when it's not actually there. G2A, or more specifically, this individual employee, as they claim, specifically wished to open a paid relationship with Some Indie Games to publish a self-produced article that is asserted as unbiased, but there is a direct attempt to use a distribution method that does not abide by common law. Effectively, G2A's attempt in this email was to use immoral and disingenuous means to spread a message that they are not immoral and disingenuous as a company. The desire to influence their reputation is not unexpected. In fact, their public impression, especially among the indie developer scene, is so bad that indie developers are asking their audience, rather than purchase the key at a discounted price through G2A or similar sites, to outright pirate the product. That's pretty extreme. The negative effects of this third-party reseller are so detrimental to indie developers, they are actively asking gamers to illegally pirate the game rather than use the services. G2A is claiming that an unauthorized employee sent this dishonest proposal to some 9 different media outlets and that they will now be punished because of it. This is my own purest form of speculation, mind you, but I do not believe this employee was operating on a completely independent venture. Unless this was a high-ranking employee with the power to follow through on a contract and subsequent promotion of this unbiased article, sending this proposal was entirely meaningless without some form of pre-existing approval and an understanding that there was a real initiative behind it. It is my personal belief that G2A is trying to skew the narrative while changing as little about their service as is humanly possible, because any sort of legitimate accountability would put a massive dent in their profit margin, if not render them outright unsustainable entirely. Here's where I would like to make a genuine call to the gaming community that watches this video. Indie developers are a hugely important part of the industry. Oftentimes, the effects that we as consumers can have are very marginal at best, but in this case, there is a clear-cut and powerful impact that we can have. Do not buy from G2A. Their protective service, which ensures a refund should the key be discovered as fraudulent, is effectively a paid security feature offered for free by other sites like eBay or Amazon. Their allowance for the use of ill-gotten product keys contributes to the bankruptcy of certain indie ventures, and their obvious propensity for dishonest promotion and sponsorship tactics cannot be ignored. There is a very real chance that they may attempt to take this video down. That's fine, I'll fight against it if it does happen, but G2A should really consider the Streisand effect. A large number of developers, creators, and gamers are well aware of their business model, and their lack of meaningful action to help solve a horribly damaging issue within it. To begin rebuilding their image, they must start to make platform improvements, rather than trying to buy off manipulative positive coverage. That's it for today, though. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. There are various different memberships, Patreon, merch, all that standard stuff, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, don't use G2A, and have a nice night.